Do I have a tale to tell you? Better watch where you go swimming. So a friend of mine said that I ought to tell my stories, like just record stories for PK Talks and just like share them. So I'm going to do that with you all right now. So one story that comes to mind is a story that took place a long time ago when I was a kid. I was a teenager actually. I was in Georgia. There's a lake up there, Clarks Hill Reservoir, I think, something like that. And I remember one summer, my cousin and I saw these tire tracks. There were skid marks basically right on the road, and it was just like a car had spun out and just took off like somebody was really angry. It took off, and it was down near the boat ramp. And so, anyways, my cousin and I went down there at the end of this peninsula. The boat ramp was on one side, and on the other side, it kind of dropped off a little bit, and then you got to the water. And I was like, all right. So one of the things that he and I both like to do, we would take rocks, big rocks on the shore, onto the raft, and then what we would do is we would let the rocks kind of take us to the bottom of the water, right, down to the bottom of the lake. And we had a pretty good time doing that, right? And we would swim out, and I found there was a stump that was just below the surface of the water where I had enough room that I could stand on it. And my head was just above the water like this right here. And I could hold the rock, and then I could step off, and it would take me down. Now this peninsula dropped off like 15 feet, and then like 35 feet, and then down like 150 feet. It was really like deep. We obviously didn't go that far. But what we did is we'd step off and we'd go down to the bottom, and it was fun because it would drop us to the bottom as like really, really fast. And then we'd float back up to the surface and whatnot, that kind of thing. Well, in this particular instance, we would step off of that tree stump and go down, and we started like slipping on the bottom. I'm like, all this mud and this angle is so freaking slippery. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how in the world do we keep slipping on the bottom like we're slipping? And, we had a good time, but obviously when you're down about 15 feet, you can't hold your breath, you can't see anything. And so we let go of the rocks, and we would swim back up to the surface, right? And we did this for probably 2-3 days. We were there like over like 4th of July. Next thing I know, the next summer rolls around, and I said, you want to go back down there? Speaking to my little cousin, I said, hey, you want to go back out there, and let's go back down there and do the thing with the rocks again. And he's like, yeah, let's go do it. That'll be a lot of fun. So we decided we're going to go down there, and we tell my mom's cousin, whose place we were staying at, we said, hey, we're going to go back down to the end of the road where that drop-off is and start playing with the rocks like we did last year, because all the adults knew we were doing it. And my older cousin said, I don't know if that's a good idea. And we were like, what? Why not? And he said, well, that stump that you all were on last year? And we went, yeah. And he said, how you kept telling us you kept slipping on the bottom and it was really muddy down there? And we were like, yeah. And he said, you saw those tire marks on the road? And we said, yeah. And he said, well, just last week before you all got here, a fisherman had gone fishing in that same area, and in his depth finder found the outline of a car, what he thought was a car. So he called the sheriff, and the sheriff brought the dive team out. The dive team went down there and discovered there was a car there, and that in the back seat of that car was a woman who had been killed by her husband, and she was wrapped up in a sheet. So we were swimming and slipping on the roof and the trunk of that car that had gone down there. And that car had just apparently, the first time we went down there, had just happened. So we are down there swimming on top of a dead body, basically. So I would say the moral of the story would be, maybe watch out where you're swimming. and then be safe when you're swimming. But it's like crazy, man. Crazy. But yeah, look it up. You can look it up. Old newspaper article. I can't remember the last name. It seems like it's Zimmerman or something like that. But anyhow, who knows? But yeah, we had a good time. Good time. Okay. Adios. There's my story of the day.